carry on taking it. You don't think about what's in the stuff. You're playing Russian roulette with your life, and yeah.
Hello there, and welcome to Inside Health. Today, we're getting a rare insight into the world of illegal drugs and the parts of the NHS that have to face that reality and treat addiction. We're also on the trail of a new street drug called xylazine. Now, you may have seen headlines describing it as the flesh-eating zombie drug, or reports of the huge problems that xylazine being mixed with illegal drugs has been causing in the United States. Or maybe of the first death here in the UK. Carl Warburton's body was found containing a mix of xylazine, heroin, fentanyl and other drugs. He lived in Solihull in the West Midlands, and that's where we start our journey. So I've come now to Solihull Integrated Addiction Services, and it's just on a quiet housing estate. It might as well be a GP surgery for all you can tell, but let's head in.
Our service users tend to start coming in later in the morning and it comes alive a bit as the day goes on. Hello James, welcome to SIAS. I'm Simon, I'm the programme lead here, and we're happy to have you here to show you around.
Well, Simon, thanks so much for having us in. Shall we have the tour?
Yeah, let's have a walk round, show you what we do here. It's a service we're really proud of. Here is service user kitchen, which is part of our drop-in facilities. We can have a quick look inside. I'm sure you can hear the noise in the background of one or two people arriving. They come in here, make teas and coffees for themselves, which is obviously a safe space for them to do, and they take them in there and have a chat about what the day is about for them.
Where to next?
Let's have a wander actually into the drop-in, because I can hear some people in there and they may be happy just to say hello, and we can see what's going on.
Okay.
Welcome to the drop-in. This is open every day for everybody to come in and meet up, share stories. Good morning everybody.
Morning.
Felt like a teacher then for a minute. Homework is due later today, everyone. Just to remind you about that. If anybody's happy just to say hello, then please feel free.
Hello, I'm Mark. I work here at SIAS. I'm in recovery myself, and I've used SIAS as a service for many years. Now it's beautiful to be on the other side of the fence, and every day is a good day.
So what were you taking 2 years ago or so?
I'm 50 now, and I'm kind of lucky that I made it to 50, because I've took many substances over the years. I started with party drugs, and then just smoked cannabis all through my 20s and 30s, and then picked up cocaine, crack and heroin. And always because I just didn't like myself. I was uncomfortable in my own skin, and always wanted to take something to make me feel a bit better. But I ended up in a lot more pain.
And what impact did that have on friends, family?
I broke my mum. She didn't know whether she was going to get a phone call on a daily basis of the police or of somebody saying I was died. So I was a prolific offender between the ages of 30 and 40. I was in and out of prison, and now I have to change everything.
You're looking well today.
Yeah, you didn't see me over 22 months ago, and I looked a bit different now. We lose hope, we lose our self-worth, and before I got into recovery, I kind of wanted to die on a daily basis, and I was killing myself slowly with substances.
So what was your reaction when you first saw all the headlines about xylazine in the UK?
It's not unusual for other substances to be found in heroin. Unfortunately, and occasionally there are substances that we're not privy to, we don't know that's been cut with, and we're sometimes the last people to know about that. And so as soon as we know that something is in, something circulating, something unusual, something dangerous that's mixed, then we send out alerts. We talk to our service users. We have a campaign on social media alerting people. But it's frightening, and it's frightening for some of our service users as well.
It must have felt close to home, though.
It was something that we hadn't heard about. It was a new substance that had come into this area for sure. And it does red flag everywhere. All the services, oh wow, what's this? Are we going to have an epidemic? Or is it going to be cut with everything? But thankfully, we've not come across it again since.
How challenging is it for you when what's in the drugs changes over time?
There's several challenges. Firstly, you never know what's on the market. It's always been cut with other substances, heroin, benzos, chalk, rat poison, and there's a health risk around that. The advice we give, especially if you're injecting, to test a small little bit first before you go on to use, just to see how the effect is. But often some people won't do that. They'll just go straight ahead, and that's when it causes us lots of problems.
So I've come now to the place that detected xylazine for the first time in the UK, and that's Heartlands Hospital here in Birmingham. And I'm going to meet Dr. Alex Lawson in his toxicology lab.
Here we do around 3,000 to 4,000. Hello James, welcome to the toxicology department at Birmingham Heartlands Hospital.
It's a bit of a labyrinth to get here. We're not at the glitzy front end of the hospital, are we?
No, pathology is always at the back of the hospital, hiding away from everyone else.
Can we go inside?
Of course, let's go. Okay James, here's your lab coat. Hope it fits.
Thank you. Oh, it's a roomy one. Okay, good to go.
So this is the toxicology laboratory. As you can see, there's lots of people here preparing samples for analysis.
So Alex, I have brought you a gift. It's freshly prepared urine samples. I mean, this is not Christmas.
No, but it's very kind of you. I think I might give it to someone else to prepare.
Oh gosh, is that your urine?
It's mine. Come on, Alice. This is your job. This is okay. You just don't normally have to make eye contact with everybody who brings a sample, I'm guessing. Okay, can I leave that with you?
Yeah, I hope you've not done anything naughty.
It'd be a career-ending moment if I had.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, James, that'll take about 15 minutes to prepare, and then we'll come back and get the results. So here we are in the automated laboratory.
It looks really high-tech. I mean, it is a huge room. It just looked like one of those Japanese sushi bars with kind of like trays moving along and up and down.
So we have around 3,000 to 4,000 blood samples from GPs a day, and around 1,000 to 2,000 hospital samples come through this laboratory alone in one day.
So Alice, who I don't think expected to be looking at my urine today, is currently analysing. What process are you going through to figure out what I've been consuming?
For urine, you'll just dilute it with a buffer. It's going to separate out anything that's in your urine based on certain properties of the chemicals that are in there. Following that, it will go on to the mass spectrometer, and the mass spectrometer works like a giant scale, so it's going to give you a very accurate weight of whatever those compounds are. It will also fragment or break apart those chemicals to give you information on their structure, and by combining those aspects of the analysis, we're able to very accurately identify drugs, hormones, poisons.
And when you're looking at that, are you looking at kind of like the raw original drug?
Our library of drugs we look for is around 2,000 drugs and metabolites, so the breakdown products of drugs.
Okay, so how worried should I be? I mean, how big a picture of my body do you get from doing one of these analyses?
It's only looking for drugs and drug metabolites, so you should be absolutely fine as long as it's just a cup of coffee you've taken before submitting your sample.
Tea rather than coffee, but okay, that's fine. This leads us on to the question of xylazine. How did you end up discovering that in someone's sample?
We do a standard analysis, so we put those blood and urine samples down the same system your sample's going down, and the library of drugs we screen against contain xylazine. The reason it contains xylazine is because we keep on top of trends that are going on around the world.
All around the world.
Yeah, so we knew that xylazine was a particular threat in America, so we made sure we added that drug to our library. So when the sample came in that was positive for xylazine, we were already prepared. Even so, it was a pretty unexpected finding, so it needed our really experienced lab staff to be able to identify that xylazine, in a case where fentanyl or heroin may be present, could be really, really significant.
Once you've detected xylazine, Alex, what happens then?
So what we'd do is, because it'd be a new drug, we'd write a report, send it to the coroner. We would also inform the coroner directly that something new has occurred, and then that would prompt alert to various different authorities, like the police, like the crime agency, to investigate whether or not this is a single instance or this is part of a wider picture that may be going on across the country.
How often do you get something that novel?
It happens more frequently than you think. We probably detect consistently kind of 2 or 3 emerging drugs a year. We're always on the lookout for what the new drug threat is going to be.
And is that the same for every lab in the UK?
It's a real patchwork of what can and can't be detected around the country. I would absolutely welcome a more joined up approach to enable to identify these things in real time.
Shall we go have a look at my sample and hope it's as boring can be?
Let's go back to toxicology.
This is the noisier lab.
It's the noisy lab and lots of gas generators and machines.
Hello again.
Hello. Are you nervous?
No, I'm way too boring to be nervous. Alex is sat at a computer staring at my results, I think.
Enjoy.
So this is the moment of truth, Alex. What can you tell?
The main things we found in your sample were some caffeine.
That would be my 10 cups of tea a day addiction.
We also found some paracetamol.
I was feeling a bit headachy.
And we also found some theobromine, which is
What's theobromine?
Theobromine is a breakdown product from chocolate.
Okay. You have a pretty good idea of what my day was yesterday.
That's right, so chocolate, caffeine and paracetamol. Sounds like a pretty good day.
And were you sat in this seat right here the first time xylazine pinged?
This very seat, yes. It was exciting but also concerning. You know, when we see a new drug, as a scientist in us gets excited because we're seeing something new. But obviously, once you see these drugs that can be so toxic, we do get concerned that this could be the start of something in the UK which we haven't seen before.
Shall we chat a little bit more somewhere quieter, because it sounds like a steam train in here at times. Why is it important to do these tests to find out if there are new drugs?
Xylazine is quite an important one to know about because it doesn't work like an opioid, but it is also often found mixed with opioids. So if you give an antidote to an opioid overdose, something like naloxone, that antidote won't work on xylazine.
So what you find in here is kind of important for ambulance crews and doctors elsewhere in this hospital.
Absolutely.
So on xylazine itself, how worried should we be?
Xylazine hasn't proliferated like it has in America so far. We've had around 4 or 5 cases in the last year. But xylazine is one of a number of emerging threats, certainly to people who are taking heroin. We are seeing lots of novel opioids which have really, really high potency. And those are in heroin, those are in people buying prescribed medication off the internet.
And then these facilities become really important because this is where the first intelligence as to what's happening really comes from.
It is really hard to find a new drug unless we have some indication that there could be something new involved in a certain case, and that does rely on us getting information from the coroner, from clinical teams, from the police.
There might be huge numbers of automated machines in here, but there's a fair bit of human detective work.
That's absolutely right, yes.
Well, that's the science of how you spot a new street drug. But now we're going to head back to Solihull Integrated Addiction Services to find out more about the help they offer.
We've probably got about 1,200 people in service. Probably about 300 people we're prescribing to, so that would be around opiates. Some of those will be alcohol, so anti-craving medication. Prescribing isn't just the only thing. There has to be a psychosocial or psychological intervention that goes alongside that. So at the moment, what we've implementing here is a trauma-informed service that addresses childhood trauma or other traumas. You know, we've had veterans here as well.
So in the drop-in room, there's loads of tables and chairs, big pool table, pile of board games, books, computers, and like an art station. Oh, my children would love the amount of Lego there is in this corner. And right here, a bunch of tea and coffee making facilities. So this is just a space that people can come. You're perched on it, so I did want to ask, how important is the pool table?
All of these are important. We even have a quiz on a Friday, so try and bring back these types of activities that people did, or as I said, introduce them to fill the time.
It just doesn't feel very NHS-y, does it?
No,
Do you know what I mean?
So there is a clinical side, obviously, because there is a medical side to this, but there's a human side. There's a human side, and that's, and often people forget that you're dealing with other humans, not very NHS-y, but we are pretty good at it.
Really nice. Do you want me to
We've just come into the women's group. You can see it's quite a lot of people in attendance.
Hiya, I'm Fiona and I'm a peer mentor at SIAS. So this is the women's group. It's a safe space for us to be open and honest about our struggles, and we can sort of help each other. I was a hairdresser by trade, so there was lots of partying and stuff. It was more sort of binge drinking. And then I progressed on to substances then. I think there's a massive stigma attached to addictions for women, especially with children. You know, we should be able to stop for our children. I think it's finally sort of like surrendering and saying, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this on my own. I need help and getting the help that I needed. I talk so openly about it because I know there's a lot of women suffering out there. Society expects you to work full time, be a mum, run a house, and if you struggle, you're a failure.
And Simon, is there a challenge around empathy for people that abuse drugs?
People often think, it's a life choice,
Yeah.
it's a lifestyle, or I'll get up one morning and I'll try heroin, or I'll drink a load of alcohol till I'm ill. But obviously it masks various problems for people, and as you know, opiates is a very strong painkiller. It doesn't just numb physical pain, it numbs mental pain as well, and if people are in distress there, it's a easy way for them to sort of forget all that pain and trouble. You are let into people's lives here, and that itself is a privilege. So we don't talk about it. It's not out in the open enough, but there is help there, and we can and should talk more about it.
I was scared the first time I went to prison, but that was my way of getting clean.
So how long have you been in recovery?
I've been clean now for nearly 22 months. And
How easy was it to go from a user to being completely clean?
it was either carry on, die, or try and get clean.
It was do or die at that
Do
point.
or die, 100%, yeah.
Can it be hard to get help when, lots of people don't care? People judge people who take drugs without, they forget there's a human being involved in all of it.
I think there's a lot more sympathy now and
Yeah.
empathy, because a lot more people have got a lot more understanding about addiction, and,
Yeah.
and they know how rife it is in the UK. But when I was using, I think I was in that much shame, and the power that drugs has over you, you carry on doing stuff that's shameful, and just because drugs has got that much of a grip on you, but I still had a conscience. It's somewhere in me, I've got some good, you know what I mean, and that was the only way my mum had stuck by me for all the years. I put her through misery, but basically, she never gave up hope.
So far in Inside Health, we've met the team that detected xylazine for the first time in the UK and visited a drug treatment service in Solihull. And I found that quite powerful and emotional. But now it's time for us to leave the West Midlands, because we're heading to King's College London to meet a group that analyse the deaths from drug abuse in the UK.
Through a few cases of using boxes in there. Hi James, thanks for coming to King's College London today. My name is Dr. Caroline Copeland and I'm a senior lecturer in pharmacology and toxicology.
So Caroline, you've brought me into a really quite cramped space with shelving all up one wall and a bit of the other one, just with box after box after box after box. I can see through the tiny little handles that it's just filled with paperwork. So what is it?
So these boxes contain records of the drug-related deaths which have happened in this country since 1997. These are reports on what is known as the NPSAD form, the National Programme on Substance Abuse Deaths form, that gets filled in from the coroner records that they send to us.
And this is just a massive wad of paper. Is each sheet of A4 in here a death?
So probably a couple of sheets per death, but we can see from the case number on the box, we've got about 4,000 cases in here.
And 4,000 in every one of these boxes.
Give or take.
If this was a graveyard, it would be huge.
It would,
I mean, you've got tens of thousands of dead people in here.
yeah, and it's what I'm trying to stop from just continuing to pile up. And until we have some real help for these people, this archive is just going to continue to get bigger.
Are we allowed to open them?
Yeah, let's have a look. Okay. So this is a gentleman who was 38 at the time of his death, and we can see that he was living in a homeless shelter. He's been enrolled on a methadone program, so is seeking help. They were found by staff doing a welfare check.
It's a very sad slice of life in here, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, but it's real life and it's what's happening, whether or not people want to acknowledge it or not. But I'm trying to.
Do these boxes tell a story as well about the changing drugs in this country?
Yes, so we've seen a big explosion in the number of what are called novel psychoactive substances since about 2010, and xylazine being one of them. To know about these drugs, you have to test for them. So yes, we do get reports of them, but is every death tested for these new substances? No. So how do we really know the extent of their harms? Right, well, this is such a small room. Let's get out of here and we can talk about xylazine more in my office. The pharmacy department.
Yeah.
So these are old pharmacy jars.
Karen, explain for me why it took so long from the death in kind of like early 2022 until it arrived in media reports earlier this year.
So after the death occurred, the coroner in Birmingham did investigate the case fairly quickly. It was reported to us in August, but because we get hundreds of reports each month, we didn't get to it until November. We wrote up the case report fairly quickly, but then it took a long time for it to actually be published in May of this year, 1 year later. And it's worrisome because if this had been reported more fully, more quickly, it could have helped other people who have come to harm from using this drug, but it just wasn't known about.
And then there were a huge number of headlines, nearly all of them involving the phrase zombie drug, kind of like, oh, I think your sharp intake of breath probably answered my question.
It's incredibly dehumanising. Describing a living person as a zombie is that you've written them off already. I can see how it's got the name. This drug causes sedation, it causes these horrible skin ulcers, but it's not a nice description, and it's not a description that's going to encourage people to try and help these people and think of them as humans.
And why has xylazine kind of emerged?
It's much more common in the US drug supply at the moment than it is in the UK, although it is expanding in the UK. And in the US, it's found in combination with heroin and fentanyl. And that's because it's becoming increasingly difficult to traffic heroin into the US. And so in order to try and recreate the heroin experience, dealers have resorted to creating essentially a cocktail with the fentanyl and the xylazine.
How much more dangerous is the cocktail compared with taking heroin, which isn't something we would tend to think of as being remotely safe in the first place?
Well, xylazine mixed with fentanyl was declared an emerging threat to the United States by the White House in April of this year. And I've heard quotes of politicians and harm prevention people in the US saying that they wish they had a heroin problem because the xylazine problem is so much worse.
It's quite something to say that, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, wishing you want a heroin problem just demonstrates how tragic the xylazine problem has become.
Why do we need to know what drugs people are taking?
Well, we need to know so we can help these people to the best of our abilities in terms of healthcare. People need to know what they're taking, and people need to know what someone has taken. And without knowing that information, we can't provide the healthcare that's needed.
What kind of needs to change?
So we need to increase accessibility to testing for the people that use the drugs so they know what they're taking, for healthcare professionals so they know how to respond to either an acute overdose or the chronic skin ulcers, and for coroners and pathologists to know to request even that these tests need to be done, because only then will we understand the full scale of the problem.
I know some people will be listening to this programme thinking, well, that's their fault. That's their choice. Those are the chances they take.
So I don't like the term recreational drug abuse. I think very little of drug use is done for pure recreation. Most people resort to taking drugs to try and cope with the realities of life, maybe trauma or abuse that they've had to experience. And we need to be addressing the underlying reasons for drug use to really control the drug problem that we have in this country.
Like, does it weigh down on you? Your research field is looking at that kind of information all the time.
You're reading details of one of the most intimate moments of somebody's life, which is their death. And that can be in really tragic circumstances. We just have to think about what good can we learn from these people's deaths to try and stop these type of circumstances happening again.
Well, we do have a response from the Department of Health and Social Care about the topics we've been discussing on Inside Health, saying that any death is a tragedy and passing on their sympathies to the friends and family of the person who died. On some of the criticisms, they said we monitor seizures and non-fatal overdoses and toxicology results as part of national surveillance and early warning systems, and they then issue advice and health alerts to local authorities when there are dangerous batches of specific drugs. And they went on to add that an extra £500 million is being invested over the next couple of years to create more places in drug and alcohol treatment.
I've just been to a funeral this morning of a friend I grew up with. That's where I usually can take you. Yeah, I feel blessed now. I have a purpose. I come here on a daily basis. I'm really grateful for that. My mum can sleep at night. She's got a bit of peace back.
Have you turned the corner?
I've 100% turned the corner, yeah. So I wake up now and I get out of bed and feel like I've got a new sense of life. I'm realising what I missed out on. And I can't change none of the stuff I've done in the past, but I can change what I do from today.
Mark, thanks so much for talking.
No problem, anytime.
Really appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Have a lovely day.
So let's just pop out into the garden. It's a therapeutic area. They take responsibility, if you like, for the plants, and sometimes we're growing tomatoes, and the service users are, and it's a nice space for them to be. It's relaxing. It's away from the hustle and bustle, the pressures of their life, and to be fair, they love coming out here.
Well, I'm loving the bird sound.
Yes, yeah, out in the open at last. Is the sun shining? Because that's quite unusual at the moment.
I don't think it is, Simon.
Oh dear.
I'm just curious, what drew you to Addiction Services? Why did you go, this is where I want to help out?
I don't know, I think my wife probably takes a bit of credit for that, because she felt I was a really good listener, and I like people, and I like hearing their stories, and I feel like that's where I can make a contribution.
But it all started with a good pair of ears.
A good pair of ears for my wife, yeah, funny enough, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, Simon, thanks so much for having me in today.
No, it's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed having you here.
Thank you for listening to the Inside Health podcast from me, James Gallagher, and producer Jerry Holt. We're taking a pause now for the end of summer, so see you in a couple of weeks.
I saw a footprint.
I'm Andrew Benfield, and I'm obsessed with the Yeti.
The face looks like some kinds of monkey.
The idea of a Yeti-like creature has been around for centuries, but could it be real? In Yeti, a new 10-part series from BBC Radio 4, I'm going to try to find out. I'll be joined by a good friend.
You said we were going for a short walk across the valley.
I'm Richard Horsey. This search isn't going to be easy.
They have the ability to disappear.
Are we chasing phantoms?
Yeti chasers will never find them.
But in this series, we think we might. Listen to Yeti on BBC Sounds.
What's there?